After giving myself some time to contemplate for the past few days, I still believe that this is a great show, but not as positively as I did in the podcast. While the show does mostly still follow the events of the game, the liberties it takes for this latest episode can be questionable to say the least. The first most notable change for the show is the portrayal of Sam where he is deaf. With his disability, he will be unable to spot infected through sounds. While I did mention last week that this change makes the situation more terrifying and suspenseful for the events near the end of the episode, it does have its downsides, which I did not tackle in the podcast. Which brings me to the second significant shift from the game, which is Henry, who is portrayed as an inexperienced survivor in navigating the post-apocalyptic world. Nothing wrong with this in face value. However, if his sibling is in need of more guidance and security because of his disability, it does not make sense for Henry to be less experienced to be able to survive in this cutthroat and devastating world. In fact, it should be the contrary, as one wrong move can easily spell the end of them, so extra vigilance is required for Henry. And making him less experienced is actually quite unrealistic, at least in the context of surviving as long as possible. Another major shift in the story is none other than the Resistance leader, Kathleen. Contrary to what I said for the previous episode, the group that they are a part of is the Resistance Army against Fedra, and not Fedra itself. In this episode, it is revealed why she is on the warpath to find Henry and Sam, as the former is responsible for the death of her brother, who used to be the leader of the Resistance, with the mantle now being on her shoulders. Although previously I mentioned that the writing is intentionally making her a flawed and emotional leader, it does take it a bit too far in this episode, as given what is at stake, her character lets her emotions get the best of her, and her followers are far too obedient, or blindly following her leadership, which caused their demise towards the end of the episode. The final major change for this episode from that of the game is Sam's infection. Contrary to the game, where he remains silent as the infection consumes him, I did appreciate the added touch that he reveals that he got bitten to Ellie, and she in response shows him her bite marks. It adds a more appropriate, humane approach, especially when Ellie shared her blood to Sam with the hopes of curing the infection. To add to this, I believe that the burial scene of Henry and Sam, along with Ellie's final message to Sam, is a great addition and enriches the episode overall. On the positive side of the episode, as I mentioned previously, the show still successfully retains many of the story beats of the video game. The time spent on this episode to bond with Henry and Sam is a nice touch, and seeing the events play out in their perspective, which is not present in the game. The scenes with Ellie and Sam playing and building a bond of friendship greatly adds more emotional value to the characters, especially to those who have played the game already and knows how the episode will end even without reaching it yet. As for the introduction of the bloater, I believe that this is well executed, as given the events of the last two episodes, I heavily anticipated that the bloater would make its appearance here. How the events played out here is very symbolic, as the Resistance Army could have avoided this situation entirely, had they not blindly followed Kathleen's highly emotional decision-making, which also ultimately led to her demise. Overall, I still enjoy watching The Last of Us. Despite its flaws, I still believe that it is one, if not the best video game adaptation to ever been released. Although there are some questionable scenes, such as the clicker closing in on Ellie inside the car, despite the constant sound of gunfire around them, the emotional journey and tone of the video game still manages to remain intact. My biggest concern will have to be that, given we are more than halfway into Season 1, I believe that many of the stories that the show still needs to tackle will feel too fast-paced or rushed, unless they cut out some stories from the game, which will be quite unfortunate. What do you guys think of Episode 5? Sound off in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching, and do subscribe for more content if you have not already. Have a great day.